could have been an accident, but not a fire.
Possibly, yeah.
And this one is very specifically a fire, right?
And that dates back to what time that they're proclaiming this fire?
1926.
Yeah.
People back right up to 19.
Oh, how long this legend? We don't know.
Mm.
It's just one of those things that's been floating around
Just,
for the last
sort of
few
popped
decades.
Up, whether it's an urban legend or something, or but
Well, maybe there was a fire and it was rebuilt, and it just wasn't like.
No,
Mm-hmm.
we've looked everywhere.
Googled
We looked
everywhere.
at everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Interesting that so many people have the same.
Mm-hmm.
but it's like telephone. It's like the game of telephone. You tell it and it gets misinterpreted, and it kind of falls to the wayside.
Or maybe he died in a fire at his home, and his ghost haunts that because he grew up there or his dad worked there.
Could have been.
That's possible, too,
It could have been like one of those deals where, he spent all his childhood there, died somewhere else, and just come back.
Right.
But he wasn't maybe crippled or anything. Just loved the theater. His name was George. Because people and spirits die. It's I'm no professional by any means, but when people die and spirits and energy lives on, it is known that they will travel back and attach themselves to possessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether possessions be a building or an object or something of that nature, right? So, yeah. So, I mean that...
And I actually did look at vital stats for 1926 for a while.
Right.
There was 423 people that died in 1926 that there's records of. And I looked through about 160 of them before I kind of gave up. But out of those 423 people that died in 1926, there was one person there was 7 people, I think, named George. One was a child who was 5 years old, but he didn't die during any of the times of the fires that were reported in Winnipeg.
Do you know his family, like the
See,
surname?
I could
that's
find
just
it again. I can't
for
remember
that,
it.
for that one, yeah.
It wasn't...
Because I was going to say, you could go by if you could go by his surname, you could find out where like
he just
when,
died. All it said was that he died in Winnipeg and he was 5 years old. That's through Vital Stats count.
Oh, just for the 5-year-old. But I'm talking about George, though.
And see, there's no records
There's
either.
423 people named George that died in 1926.
Yeah. But they never give a surname. They don't even give the name of the dad, supposedly.
No,
that
so
worked
it's kind of
there.
hard to actually correlate between the two. Maybe the 5-year-old did die. He died in November of 1926, and the only really big fire that happened in Manitoba was the Winnipeg Theatre Fire, which was December 23rd, December 23rd, 1926. So I was looking, I Googled Manitoba Stats, I Googled all Georges, December 1920, actually just 1926. And George died, I believe it was in November. The only George I ever found who was 5 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there would have been something at that time, it probably would be listed.
Right. And that's pretty specific. She did.
Yeah.
Good job, Sher.
Yeah.
Good job.
Woo. It was a long damn Google.
Here's some other occurrences that have happened. It says in March 1967, an employee of the old MTC box office was checking some files when the caretaker ran into her office, insisting she accompany him into the theater to see something fantastic. She went into the theater and was surprised to see the reclining chairs moving back one by one, as if somebody was flipping the seats as he walked through the rows. Another employee came during the spectacle and verified that the seats were jumping up and down. And they concluded that George, quotation marks, was the culprit and accepted the strange sight on another one of his tricks. Now, I'm almost thinking, too, maybe at that point...
It's already been sort of known that it's got to be George, right?
Well, not George, but say how... Okay, for example, we discussed the hauntings at the Walker Theatre, and they always suspected things were happening because it was Mabel.
Yeah.
So they probably assigned it a name. Maybe
they
just assigned a name just to give it some kind of an identity. Yeah. Oh, it's George again.
Yeah,
but not necessarily. Not necessarily.
The guy that lived down the hallway,
child. Yeah, exactly. So
that could be.
Well, yeah.
You usually tend to give,
a name to something you don't know.
What you can't explain.
Yeah.
And you think it's a spirit or something.
Absolutely.
You just assign it a name.
You have a better connection with it too, right?
That's right.
And not be afraid of it if it's a George, a little boy that's crippled.
Right.
As opposed to Barney, the 400-pound guy that's a psychopath. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd rather it be George. It was the crippled boy, right?
Yeah. So, we were just saying different things that... Okay, the other thing... Excuse me. They say George settled right into the MTC, and he was also deemed responsible for a calculating machine happily clicking away as to an unseen hand. He's balancing the books, obviously.
Yeah.
He was always described as a friendly and helpful ghost. How the hell would you deem a ghost helpful? Did he help carry the groceries? I don't get that.
Especially a
Sweep
child.
up?
Oh my god, I can't get my child to do anything. Can't even change the toilet paper.
That's a weird statement.
It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, helpful.
Helpful?
Oh
No.
wait, okay, I stepped too far ahead here. They said one employee was asked to find 2 specific receipts out of a large pile of papers, and it seemed like a huge like needle in the haystack type thing.
Okay.
And he asked for George's help. And then she was rewarded by a breeze, which blew the papers into the air, and 2 sheets landed by themselves in a wastebasket. Well, he's throwing it away. He was being a little shit.
That was helpful, thank you.
And they were the 2 required receipts. I don't know.
Seriously?
That sounds a little bit...
That sounds a bit... I think that chick was stealing money.
Things that make you go, That was reported...
I found those.
Yeah. Oh, look, how convenient. Here they are.
How convenient, yes.
That was reported by Chris Rutowski in his book of...
Paranormal Studies and Inquiry in Canada, is that?
No, Chris Rutowski from Unnatural History, True Manitoba Mysteries. He's actually also with the Winnipeg Paranormal Group.
Yeah.
So,
A friendly and helpful ghost.
I think it's safe to say that, everything's debunked as far as, like, specifically the one George story that we know.
Well, I mean, I think maybe they're just assigning a name.
Assigning a name is what
Someone
I'm thinking.
at some point...
Something's haunting it. Something's going on.
Someone at some point said that it was... Maybe someone had a child that passed away.
Possibly.
That worked there.
Or loved the place,
or
right?
something, but
yeah.
There's actual... Unless anyone can find any or share someone.
If somebody knows somebody, like, from a family
fire that
or something.
actually happened there, a little fire that maybe wasn't recorded by newspaper or news or anything. But I mean, how would a child die in a small fire there?
Right, exactly.
That's a smoke inhalation.
It could be. Or,
Possibly.
some sort of,
But again, there was no fire at that specific location.
No, unless it was unreported. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
It would have to be something.
I read about those 18 theaters, and
Did you read about all those?
I did.
The one that was the horrible one that happened, like, in the States that caused them to question the theater?
Yes.
Here?
Yeah.
That was
about
terrible. It's like 50 people died there or something, eh?
Because it was owned by the same chain. Was it Odeon or
theaters,
something?
yes.
Or whatever.
And they all had wooden slats on the outside of their buildings.
Yeah.
And they knew it happened.
And they'd cram 1,400 people, like, into the theater.
Yeah. And it burnt and, like,
Kindling.
50 people died out of it. It was like...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I'm stepping...
I'm
Chicago. Yeah. I think so.
Wow. And they said, this may happen here, too. And they're like...
No way am I going in there then.
Yeah.
Right.
And it happened.
Why would you go in there?
But back in the day, though, right? Like, they get to see a movie or
1940s,
show.
like,
They get to be entertained. They don't care.
Yeah, no thanks.
I know. So now about the truth and the history about the MTC. This is what I pulled up. So basically, I hate that word.
Say absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll change with you. You
Sure,
say
we'll just
absolutely.
swap off.
I'll do basically.
So the MTC Theatre, where it sits, it was actually comprised of 2 theaters after it was the Dominion, because the Dominion was a theater and then it became a movie theater. Mm-hmm. And then after, somewhere in between that, it became the Winnipeg Little Theatre and Theatre 77, and it merged to form the Manitoba Theatre Centre in 1958, and the goal was to produce great theatre to mass appeal. And then it was officially opened, I guess, for a while, because there was some kind of demolition and reconstruction. MTC was using the space at the Centennial Concert Hall, and then it moved back and reopened in 1969 with the main stage theater. So basically, it had, like, the block. It was right there.
Yeah, it was a big block.
But the Pantages was always by itself. Now, I looked into the Pantages because
I'm like... you? See, I never looked into the Pantages.
Yeah, because...
I should have did that.
Yeah, because what I found was they're both on Market, right?
Yeah.
And, like, the funny thing is, they're always talking about the Dominion Theatre, right? Nobody mentions anything about,
was there a fire at the Pantages?
Yes, but... Wait, let me get back
shit
to where I was.
I didn't know
that. Okay, my story. How did I find this? Where did I go? I've got 27 pages.
Now. I know, I got, like, pages open all over the damn
place. Okay, here's what I got. Okay, so the closest thing to a theater fire on Market Street with no death, was in February 1954 when the neighboring Imperial Hotel and Manitoba Hotel facing Main Street burned down. A performance by the Jewish Women's Musical Club had just started when smoke began entering the theater, and usher interrupted the performance to tell the people to evacuate. The theater had minor smoke and water damage, and the streets around it were covered in ice with like frozen debris and blah,
Right,
blah,
right,
blah.
right.
And it took about 10 days before it could reopen. Okay. So this space was left, the empty space was left by the fire, would then become home to an expansion of the Playhouse 40 years ago, the Pantages.
Oh, after.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's in that same block.
The same block area.
So that's the closest.
That's the closest. See, I never saw that fire dam at all. I went to like the firefighter museum or
Right.
archives, and they had the most deadliest fires in Winnipeg, and I didn't see that one. So maybe it wasn't just really...
And there was another part that I found, which was really interesting, because there was also what now had become Portage and Main. There was actually, like, it's just the location of anything, like the relocating at MTC when it was going through the changes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For a time, it was at the Portage and Main, which is now the Richardson building.
Oh,
so like
really?
that whole block, right, encompassed a certain amount of theaters and would move and yeah. So,
Whatever
I mean,
vacant building was available at that time,
so
or
yeah, so like so the closest fire basically at that point was there was one in the Pantages on Market Avenue, but it ended up with nothing. There was
what?
nothing.
There was no deaths there
no
at all?
deaths.
Okay.
It was just small. It was minor.
Hmm.
So really,
I can't
strange.
imagine they would hide any kind of death really at that time. They were
No.
so blatantly. There was no watching out for any rights about any sort when you came to the press at that point.
Exactly.
They would tell you anything.
Yeah. Now the Pantages Theatre is haunted as well, right? The Pantages Theatre was actually built by a gentleman by the last name of, well, it was Alexander Pantages.
Mm-hmm.
He actually he came sort of like up from the States and went up to Alaska. He went from like a theater, the lowest theater in Seattle, and then he was in Alaska, and he said he had some kind of a failed relationship. And it says that he's the one that's responsible for coming back and haunting the Pantages Theatre,
Here?
his namesake in Winnipeg. Yeah. So, and apparently he's a very angry ghost, and the ghosts at the Pantages are very angry, is what
Oh,
it says.
joy.
It'd be kind of cool to have like a, lack of a better word, it's not a sleepover, but stay overnight one night.
Well, sure.
Oh, it would
Wouldn't that
be.
be super
Yeah.
cool?
It would be fun.
I think they had that at the Pantages a few years ago
Did
on
they really?
Halloween. Like, they had that. That'd be kind of cool.
So the roots go back to 1911, and then a man named W.B. Lawrence, longtime theater manager from Detroit, came to Winnipeg in 1906 to manage theaters and produce independent vaudeville productions.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1906, like holy crap balls.
Like,
That's ages ago.
one of the reasons why they say the Pantages, right, is haunted, they say a couple of performers reported being wrapped up in the theater curtains during a performance practice. One performer laughed it off, and the curtains seemed to loosen up their grip on her, and she was able to free herself. On another occasion, the same thing happened to a different performer who tried to struggle once the curtains had wrapped around him, which only made them tighter around the
The
performer.
curtains? That
That was
odd.
Pantages, so
That's an odd thing. Like, were they borrowed from somewhere, I wonder?
I don't know, but there was never a death reported. I mean,
Never, eh?
no, but it's reported as haunted happening. Happenings happening.
Happenings.
Because it happens.
It happens. Okay, I'm sorry. I just looked at something and it said he died of head injuries at General Hospital on Boxing Day with his wife. What? Okay, hang on.
All right.
One workman lost his William Coburn of 225 Papa Street was a plasterer working in McDermott. On December 9, 1913, he was scaffolding 40 feet up and he fell through a gap in the boards, died from head injuries at General Hospital on Boxing Day, leaving a wife and 5 children.
Wow. Okay.
Where the hell was this going on? I was Googling Pantages, so I'm just curious.
See, and I mean, a lot of people could have died when they built these places too,
Oh
right?
my gosh! Can you imagine? I can't
like the
imagine.
ledge, apparently, like what, like 5 or 10 people died during the building.
Yeah,
because it took them about 8 years or 10 years to build the ledge.
Yeah.
Again, my facts could be totally wrong. We know everything about nothing and nothing about everything.
All
so
the time. That's why we
set
Google,
it straight.
Google.
All the time.
Google. I know. Yeah.
But
this was
yeah. I mean, there was some controversy at the Pantages because of the guy. He dated an actress, I guess, up in the Alaska, and then he come back down to the States, and anyway.
Yeah, no, this was talking about people that worked on the project. Contractor James McDermott, a local prominent bigger like McDermott Lumber, right?
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
He had ads. It says he noted the Walker and prominent city theaters that was completed in every detail. They did stuff from Winnipeg Paint and Glass. They even, the same carpets and draperies were imported from England by HBC. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. That's the same person that did the old crash and fall there. So who knows? But anyway, otherwise, every other person that ever got injured or anything there,
Yeah.